known to us on the team as Baz. It's his second year as team leader this year, and Baz is formerly a Harrier GR7 pilot, having served with 1, 4 and 20 squadrons during his time on the front line. And like all of the Harrier pilots in the Royal Air Force, of course the Harrier fleet recently disbanded, he's seen several operational tours in Afghanistan where we provide close air support to the young men and women of British forces and our coalition allies on the ground there. And of course you don't need me to tell you the difficult circumstances under which they work in Afghanistan on the ground. Mayor's not only a very experienced pilot, both in the Harrier Force and the display world, but he's a very keen sportsman, a good runner actually, and a pretty decent kite surfer, and he's able to practice kite surfing during our spring workup training which takes place at RIAT Akrotiri in Cyprus. I have to say, he did reach a reasonable standard this summer as well. Okay, on the right-hand side, the team now are in Big Vixen formation. This is a wide formation, and therefore challenging, particularly for the pilots on the outside of the formation. And on the left wingtip of our Big Vixen is Red 9, Flight Lieutenant Zane Sennett, one of the third-year pilots on the team this year. So as Red 1 calls for the roll to commence, this the Big Vixen roll, Red 9 on the left-hand wingtip there is working particularly hard, using lots of roll, rudder, back on the power, he's pitching forward to maintain his position in this manoeuvre. Zane is another one of the team's Harrier pilots. We have 3 Harrier pilots on the team with degrees in geography. Zane's one of those. It's also pretty useful for a pilot to know where he is at all times. And Zane, if the weather permits in the second half, is the man who puts the arrow through the famous red arrow's heart. So that's Reds 2 and 3 acknowledging the change to Swan. Another wide and long formation here. The wings slide to the back of the neck of the Swan. And it's generally considered that the further you are away from the leader, the more difficult formation position keeping is. We've got the more experienced positions filled up with third-year pilots, and one of the first-year pilots on the team is just to the right of the neck of our Swan, just immediately left of the neck as they pull up now in the Swan to Typhoon loop. Just left of the neck then it's Red 2, Flight Lieutenant Chris Lyndon Smith, known as Smythe. Smythe's joined the team this year from 13th Squadron at RAF Mara. That squadron recently disbanded. But Smythe, like many Tornado pilots in the Royal Air Force, have seen operational service over Iraq. But of course now the Tornado is serving operationally in Afghanistan in replacement for the Harrier. So as they come down the hill here, the aircraft are building up now to 400 miles an hour. It's about a 4G twist as they come out of this in the Typhoon twist. Typhoon, of course, is named after the Eurofighter Typhoon, which you... Well, it's a very patriotically colourful manoeuvre this, but you heard Red 1 emphasise the word roll in the command, and roll. And it's on the R of roll that all of the other pilots anticipate their control inputs to manoeuvre at exactly the same time as Red 1, and that's how you get to see a perfect Apollo twister. Now if you take a look to the back left of our Apollo formation, the lowest aircraft as we look at them now, you see Red 5, Flight Lieutenant Kirsty Stewart, the first ever female red arrow pilot. The girls feel like a cheer, then please go ahead. Kirsty's in her second year with the team this year, and she was inspired to join the Royal Air Force to be a pilot by her father, who was a navigator on the Tornado GR1. He served operationally over Iraq in 1991, and Kirsty herself went on to fly the Tornado GR4, really following in her father's footsteps. Formation named, of course, after the formidable Russian fighter aircraft, the Su-27 Flanker, as Red 1 brings him into a 3G left-hand bed in Flanker formation. So Reds 4 and 5 acknowledge the change to Eagle. The highest aircraft with his smoke on that we see is Red 4. Flight Lieutenant John Egging, known as Eggman to us. We're not the best at thinking of original nicknames in the Royal Air Force. And Eggman's the second of the first-year pilots on the team this year. Eggman joins us from the Harrier Force, and his frontline service was with 4 Squadron, known as Happy 4 Squadron. Again, another man with operational experience in Afghanistan. Eggman's a keen runner, does a lot of running with his wife Emma, but we all know that she's a faster runner than he is. Actually, she's watching him today. But ladies and gentlemen, the team passes now. The whirlwind. So there's the widen out to loose diamond. Let's have a listen to the pilots. Came to the UK at a very early age. I grew up in the Coventry area. When he joined the Royal Air Force, he went on to fly the Tornado GR4 and served on 617 Squadron, the famous Dambuster Squadron. He was based at RAF Lossiemouth, but of course they were based at RAF Scampton during the Second World War, which coincidentally is the Red Arrow's home base. So Sean there just left the leader making a nice job of the Diamond Chicane. Sean's also a bit of a car buff. They're really into his cars, he drives a lot. The teams are turning in towards us now to set up for the detonator to start the second half of the show. We're breaking the formation down into 2 parts. Reds 1 to 5 are known as Enid, after Enid Blyton's famous 5. Mums and dads, you might have to tell the youngsters who Enid Blyton was. And Reds 6 to 9 are known as Jippo, they're the back 4. Enid and Jippo swap in and out with each other throughout the second half of the show. So this is the detonator to get things going. And on the left-hand side of this is Flight Lieutenant Dave Davis. Together these 4 aircraft make up Jippo, and this is the Jippo Pass. So on the left-hand side, that's Monty. He's in about a 5 or 6G bend here, flying the Cyclone. His job is to call a turn reversal so that he and Red 7 on the right cross right in front of us. That's the reversal call. This is the Cyclone. Lieutenant Dave Davis, our world's He's lining up to meet Enid coming in over the top of the BAE Systems hangar. This manoeuvre is called the Goose. That's a 7G pull-up when the British red, white, blue smoke comes on as Enid complete the Goose. Side, Enid keep the red, white, blue flowing as they go into a steep climb. We call this manoeuvre the steep climb. Well, perhaps you think of something better than that, although a young man at an air show last year did tell me that as they push over at the top, which we may just missed it this year, okay, Enid have handed over to the synchro pair coming in from the right and left. Monty's on the right, Planky's on the left. This is called the carousel. So Blanky's not only flying a 6G bend here, 100 feet above the ground, he's really working hard here as he and Monty complete the carousel. Outside on the centre of the airfield. And seen head on, red 1 smoke looks like the mathematical symbol for infinity. So we call this manoeuvre the infinity break. is rolling in. So he and 7 now fly inverted close formation as 8 and 9 barrel roll around their smoke trails. You can see why we call this the corkscrew. Of a very enthusiastic Red 9 calling to Red 6 that he's come to the line astern for a manoeuvre called the slalom. So called because we know the British are the best skiers in Europe. They're stacked down from top to bottom, Reds 1 through 5. So Kirsty, Red 5 at the bottom, is looking through 3 aircraft to try and take her reference from Red 1. As they start this right-hand bend, they swing out beneath him using lots of rudder. The even-numbered aircraft fly on the right-hand side of the formation and the odd-numbered aircraft fly on the left. But as you see them now, it's the other way around. We've got 3 and 5 on the right, 2 and 4 on the left. We need to get them back to where they should be. So actually, this is the clever part of this manoeuvre and the real reason that we call it the slalom. And for them to pass through line of stern like that requires complete trust, once again. Even for an experienced pilot to watch this from in cockpit, that's quite an eye-watering manoeuvre. So once again, the red, white, blue smoke comes on as Enid completes the slalom. So watch Enid clear away to the left-hand side and to the front. The synchro pair are rolling themselves. This is the Jiffo break. And then later on he served on the Tornado F3 force, providing the UK's operational air defence and also the Falkland Islands operational air defence. But right now he's leading he's leading synchro as they fly double rolls. Again. On the left-hand side, here comes Enid flying the amazing rollbacks. Inside pilots barrel roll around those on the outside. You should love to fill the gap. The next voice you're going to hear will be Red 5, Kirsty's. As 6, 7 and 9 approaches for a fantastic manoeuvre called the Vortex. This one's good to listen to on the radio. Pilot though, as he lines up on the runway with 800 miles an hour closure here towards Red 6, who's coming in from the right. The final manoeuvre for synchro then, ladies and gentlemen, this is the opposition barrel roll. Running into the finale of the show, the Vixen break. Ladies and gentlemen, the very British Red Arrows. To the right-hand side, big battle means that Reds 6 and 7 are on board. Big battle means that Red 10 is with them, but of course I'm in the commentary box today. This is our run-in and break, and you might as well listen to the pilots on the radio.
Breaking.
Vedi che parte il culo in medio.
Ah, ok.